Hey, what's going on everyone, and welcome to the RC Retro channel. In this episode, I'm going to share some vintage items that I've recently added to my collection in the last few weeks. A majority of it is Tamiya because, well, the majority of my collection is Tamiya. But I do have a couple other interesting items in here that I'm going to share with you in a little bit. I'm not really a parts hoarder. I usually just buy what I need to get a car up and running or to complete a restoration. However, like I said, in the past few weeks, a couple items popped up that we in the hobby consider hard to find or rare. And when I saw the price, it was almost too good to pass up. So a majority of these items that are Tamiya are some of the items that belong to some of my favorite RCs. So while at the moment I don't have a need for them, at some point down the line, as I continue to grow my collection, I probably will end up using it. So with that, let me just switch the camera angle so we can get a little bit more close look at some of these items, and I hope you enjoy the video. So first I'm going to share some non-vintage items that I'm going to use to make a Top Force look vintage. And what I mean by that is I'm gonna eventually get a Top Force one day and make it look like a Top Force Evolution. Now Glenn from the Tamiya Legends channel did this a few months back, and I noticed a lot of other people did it thereafter. And hey, what can I say? The Top Force Evolution is a beautiful buggy, right? And I am gonna do the same thing. Just got to get a Top Force. So that's one of the projects that I'm probably going to do later on down the line, is get a Top Force, build it, run it, and then eventually make it look like an Evolution. I'm not going to go all out like Glenn did, like from soup to nuts, every little thing to make it like an exact clone, but basically just change over to a carbon fiber chassis and some high caps and do a Top Force body in the same color scheme as the Evolution with some MCI decals. I have an additional set of front high caps here, and that's just for my egress, because one of the things that I did to my egress was at one point I was running it and I flipped it over and I scratched the top of the high caps when I flipped it, and that's how you know I'm a crazy lunatic perfectionist, right? That I had this beautiful egress that I completely cleaned up afterwards, did a whole new body for, and then I have these two high caps right on the top of the cap over here, has a little scratch mark, and just irks the hell out of me. So got these right here to replace the two on the, so I'm gonna eventually do that. So that's the first thing. Next on the list are these front tires for the Top Force and for the Terra Conqueror. And I just recently got a Terra Conqueror that I want to use as a runner and restore it. The tires, actually all four tires are cracked and one is actually shredded. But then again, that's a gamble anytime you buy something online and you don't have pictures that show every single tire. But I found these on eBay. These are like 10 bucks. These are the front tires for the Top Force and the Terra Conqueror. They are the cone spiked tires. You can buy replacement tires for a Top Force, but they're the pyramid spikes, not like the original ones that came on the Top Force, which were cone. So these are in really good condition. They're still soft. I'm going to clean them up, and now I just got to find rear cone-shaped spike tires for my Terra Conqueror restoration. So continuing with the theme of wheels and tires, I am a big fan of the Nissan King Cab and the Toyota Hilux Monster Racer. And as we all know, the wheels and tires for both of those trucks are very hard to come by, at least new ones. So a few weeks back, I was on a Japanese auction website, and somebody was selling a complete set of the Toyota Hilux Monster Racer tires. These are the rears that share the same with the King Cab. The King Cab has these on all four, the front and the back. But the Hilux Monster Racer has these ribbed front tires. And I know they're rare because I have 3 Nissan King Cabs, and one of them I converted to a Toyota Hilux Monster Racer, and it took me a while to find the front tires. So this is another set that I now have. So, obviously I could look at these and say they've never been ran before. And same thing with these. There's no discoloration. They're still soft. The spikes are completely there. Nothing is worn. So these are in mint condition. And actually the fronts came in this bag with the spare parts, I don't know, like label. It just happened to ripped off in transit. But I'll definitely be taking very good care of those. And then, as I was saying, I was on eBay 3 weeks ago, and it was late at night, put my kids to bed. I'm just sitting there, and next thing you know, I do a quick search, King Cab, and the first thing that pops up in the first row going across, somebody selling front Monster Racer tires for $30. That's a steal right there. And that's one of the things that I was talking about at the beginning of my video, where something just pops up and it's like too good to be true, and I couldn't pass it up. So for $30, I have another front set of tires, which are even softer than those, but I don't want to open up the bag. So to continue with the Tamiya Nissan King Cab, I have the rear wheels, which are pretty hard to find because the rear wheels have the 12 millimeter hexes that go into them. So you could find them online, but they're kind of beat up or scuffed up or scratched or discolored. These are like white, extremely white. And of course they are, because they're like brand new in the packaging, which made them even more appealing. I can't say I found these. Actually, my buddy Ben, who's my go-to guy, we were in discussions one night and we were just talking about it, and he's like, yeah, I happen to have rear, wheels for the King Cab, and he's like, I'd be willing to sell them to you. And I was like, no doubt, take them off your hands, no problem. And he gave them to me at a very, very reasonable price. So Ben, you the man. So definitely a nice little treat to add to my collection, considering that they are still in the packaging. So there you go. All right, next. In the family of the King Cab is the Astute, because they both share the same gearbox, which is why they're kind of like lumped together, even though one's a buggy and one's a stadium truck. But same person who sold me the wheels sold me tires for the Astute. Now, I have to say these were a little bit more expensive, but as we all know, the Astute front tires are very hard to come by. So not only did I score a pair, but they're in its original packaging, which is completely awesome. So this is now my third set of these. I have one on my original Never Ran Astute. I have another set that seemed to be like a mint condition also on the Madcap, because they were also on the Madcap. And in case you're wondering, these also were on the Bearhawk as well. But nice little addition to my collection. And the rear wheels, which obviously are a lot easier to come by because these are the same rear wheels that are on the Egress, except these are the original ones, the vintage ones. I mean, now you can still get these because of all the re-releases that came out of the Egress, but these do match with these. So there you go. Next, another great deal that I couldn't pass up on was these high cap mini front dampers and the high cap short rear dampers for, like, let's say an Egress or an Avante. These were online and they were both in separate auctions. and I got this for like $30 and change, and this one for like $30 and change. So altogether, when they shipped to me, I think I had to pay like $67 plus whatever shipping it was from overseas. So that was a nice little treat. I was originally going to use these on my Vanquish restoration, but after some consideration, I do like the way the yellow shocks on the Vanquish look as opposed to the silver. So these are just a nice little collector item that I have. And I don't know, I guess if I get a buggy one day that's special enough to use them on, I guess I will. But until then, I just love the way that they are in their original packaging. So I saw this, and this is a Tamiya Racing Factory motor case. I think when you open this up, you could put 6 motors in here. Another good buy, $40 in an auction and with shipping on top of that. I don't have an extensive motor collection. I have a couple that I use just for some vintage restorations, but now I have a nice little case to put them in, right? So there you go. So about 2 weeks ago, I was on a Facebook group for RC10s called Chop Shop. It's ran by Sean Miller, who takes vintage RC10s and basically breaks them up and sells them in pieces. And I saw that he was advertising a close to mint stealth transmission, which at that point I really couldn't pass up. I mean, he was asking a decent amount of money, but I thought it was a fair price. And because I am a fan of Team Associated, I just wanted to have this. You know, if you know anything, you'll know that this is a game changer in the world of RC, the stealth transmission. I don't have anything to put it into right now, but I'm sure I will eventually get around to using it. There's nothing wrong with the case. There's no rusting of the screws. Everything spins freely. The outdrives probably just need some polishing, and there's no dirt or grease or anything packed into them. So I was very happy with this. It's a piece of RC history in my eyes. So like I said, I just had to have it. As a matter of fact, I know, and I'm reaching for this over here, I was talking about how much I love the King Cab, that when I got my third King Cab and I saw online that you could buy a stealth conversion kit where you change the whole bottom out and you could take out the gearbox of the King Cab and you can replace it with a stealth transmission from Team Associated. So that's what I put into here, and I have a brushless motor running in here, and this thing is pretty quick for a King Cab. I actually have a couple videos out with this. If you've never seen those videos, just check out my channel. But definitely one of my favorite RC cars that I own right here. I have a lot of different custom parts on this, and probably something I'll come back to and make a couple more videos on in the future. So there you go. And so the final thing I'd like to share with you is the unboxing of what I just received today. I'm going to open this up. Earlier in the video, I was talking a little bit about this TRF motor case and how I don't really have an extensive motor collection. And if you've been following my channel, just did a whole Ultima re-release build and a couple of run videos, and I put a Tamiya BZ super stock motor in there. And what I was really looking for, and I don't even know if it's an appropriate motor, was like a vintage Trinity motor from back in the day, in the late 80s. And one of the most sought after motors in the late 80s was pretty cool cases. Trinity Monster horsepower motor. And these are going for stupid money on eBay. And I just happened to do a search vintage RC motors, and this was in a lot of 3, and I think it totally got overlooked because people are bidding anywhere up to $80-$90 for these and selling them brand new with box over $120, and I got all 3 motors for 41 bucks. That's what I call being a scavenger online, right? So definitely, this is a very sought after motor back in the day. I'm not too familiar with the specs, but I remember it being advertised all over the RC car action magazines, the Tower Hobby catalog. So Trinity was big time with motors back in the day. So what other motors did I get? I have no idea. I wasn't even interested in these, but if you know anything about these motors, including the Trinity one, please let me know. These are beautiful motors, man. These are shiny. B&R Motorworks. I mean, there's nothing dirty about this motor. Not too familiar. It says Yokomo. It says Yokomo on there. I don't know. But another one. And just a very plain, simple, clean one. Another one that says Yokomo and RevTech on here. So got a RevTech, a B&R, and a Trinity. This thing is super clean. I mean, Trinity is etched in there. There's no rubbing or scratches from being up against a motor plate. The label, it looks to be in great condition. Everything about this motor looks great. I feel like this was like a steal. This is definitely a steal, man. This is like a quality find. All right. Anyways, enough babbling on. All right. So that was the last thing I just purchased off of eBay. So I'm super happy about that. All right, and that's basically everything here. So I hope you enjoyed my video. If you're a subscriber, thank you so much for your support. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing and giving me a thumbs up, or at least give me a thumbs up for my t-shirt, because, you know, if you're a fan of vintage RC and you were around in the 80s, you're probably a fan of the Goonies, right? So thumbs up to the Goonies. All right, any which way, thanks, and until my next video. Hey, you liked my video? Then give it a thumbs up. And if you're into RC, please consider subscribing to my channel to check out some of my other vintage RC content.